Welcome to Loading the Bar with physical training experts Parker McBride and Matt Wasco. Our Fit Lifestyle podcast covers the science of nutrition and fitness, together with the challenges we all face to be disciplined. We'll guide you through the minefields of fads and gimmicks and all manner of BS that tempt us in today's fitness world. Ready to begin? Then let's start loading the bar.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Loading the Bar podcast. Parker McBride here. I'm joined by Matt Wasco. As always, we thank you guys for listening. If you didn't listen to our first episode, we had that released. It was a fantastic episode, so it wasn't on video, but we have it for you guys if you want to listen to it. And here we are with our second ever episode. Matt, you excited to be on for the second time?
Well, we just had Christmas and New Year's, and so the New Year's is kind of a nice segue into launching this. So, yeah, I'm excited. I mean, you know, with a lot of things going on right now, a lot of things hitting us from a lot of sides. So having this podcast to do, we're only going to get better and better as we go at managing our lives. So.
Oh, absolutely. For me, you know, Christmas time, it's the hardest time of year to stay on it.
Oh, yeah.
You know, a lot of bad food, events and things.
Right.
It's tough, and I've noticed it, and I'm excited for the new year to get back on it, good on the diet, good on the workout regimen, and just be doing good on that.
Yeah.
So I'm real excited for that, and I know probably a lot of you guys are too. I've talked to a lot of people really excited to get on it hard January 1st, get their diet back in check and get back in the gym consistent. So let's do it.
Well, and then not to segue away from what you're saying, but do you like the new mics?
Oh, these mics are fantastic. I already sound better.
Yeah. So the last podcast that I edited took some finagling.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So I had to work on it a little longer than I anticipated. So these new mics should.
I mean, we're on camera now. We got these beautiful mics. Like we're
taking a step up. Yeah. So, and I've already started setting things up to start using our RSS feed to distribute it. So
awesome.
Pretty soon here, all these will be distributed in real time.
Nice.
So
awesome. Well, one of the things I want to talk about first when it comes to New Year's, we're kind of hit on a lot of New Year's type topics today and how we can be successful and set ourselves up for success in 2024. So, the first thing that's first, you know, we preach a lot of the three pillars here, mindset, nutrition, body, mindset first.
Right.
So we've got to go into 2024 with the mindset.
Right.
And what that comes down to is not only being committed to success, because committed to success is a key.
Right.
But we have to know what we're committed to. What are our priorities, right? What are we going to hit in 2024? You know, sometimes we can find our priorities get a little bit out of whack over time with not a reevaluation. And so I think it's always important to sit down, reevaluate what's important, what are we going to do in 2024 or for any year. It's just a good time to do it. And I like to sit down and do that. So, Matt, I mean, what are some of the priorities that need to come front of mind for you or just for people in general that are focused on their health and fitness?
I think the first thing is a change of mindset. A lot of people approach fitness as goal-oriented, meaning when I hit the goal, then I have achieved or have peace or I am happy. And we both agree this is a lifestyle. It's an approach to how we live our life. So we have to be careful about setting goals that, because sometimes when we set the goal, we pursue it in a way that the workout or the exercise becomes not fun. It becomes work. It becomes not a place of enjoyment. And we want to change that mindset, you know, understand that when you walk in that door, it's that time that you're there, that's your peace. That is your zen. And, you know, the goals should be, we set goals and milestones. I mean, I talk about my own, you know, your own personal experiences are relevant because it's something tangible that you can relate to and makes it more authentic. So I think I have certain goals, certain weights that I want to hit, but they're going to come. You know, I'm giving my workouts focus, and as I work towards those, my workouts have a very specific goal. But the gym time is my piece. It is my place that I kind of refuel myself.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds kind of like going back to square one. You know, have you ever heard the thing where if you want to figure out the problem, you need to ask yourself why 3 times or 4 times, or keep asking yourself why until you get down to the problem.
Right.
Because the base level problem is not the real problem usually. I think it's the same way when it comes to gym goals. You know, one of your goals is to bench press 405 pounds.
Right.
That's been your goal for a very long time.
Right.
You have to kind of ask, I think, you know, when it comes to a very specific goal like that, instead of using why, use how. Ask yourself how. So if it comes down to, hey, I want to bench 405. I want to lose this amount of weight. You know, I want to, even if it just is in your general life, you want to have a career goal or something, ask yourself, okay, how am I going to do that? How are you going to bench 405, Matt? Well, you know, you're gonna have to be consistent in your workouts, because if you're not working out, lifting heavy weight, you're never going to get stronger, right? Well, how are you going to be able to keep doing your workouts? Well, you got to fuel your workouts, you know, and you keep asking how until you get back to kind of the high level priority and goal that you're going to have to put in place in order to achieve that.
Right. And it's almost like for me, if you wanted to call it a goal, my goal's already been reached. And that is, I train weekly. I eat well. I don't put garbage in my body. And, you know, I treat myself every once in a while like anybody else, but for the most part, I'm healthy. I'm very fit. And so my goal's achieved, you know, and that's what I think with our members, that's the most important thing, right? Is that our members feel healthy. They have more energy for their families, for their jobs, do the Lord's work. I mean, all those things are important. The more fit you are, the more energy you have.
So in a way, it's almost like our health and fitness being put as a priority can then help lift all the other boats in our life,
yes.
right? Our job, our faith, our family, that type of stuff too.
Yeah. I mean, I know from personal experience that when had periods in my life when I'm tired or I don't feel like I have a lot of energy, I tend to be a little more cranky and a little more selfish. And it's more about me because I don't want to, when my kid asks me to do something with them, you know, not having that energy. I was like, I'm too tired, you know?
Yeah.
So I become more selfish, you know, and yes, we have to sacrifice our personal, you know, desires of wanting to take a nap or, you know, I'm too tired to play with you right now. Or spend time with you, or my wife wants to go out and do something and I'm too tired. So we are supposed to sacrifice, you know, that's what love is. It's sacrificial, but it makes it easier if you're in shape, you know. A
lot of things are easier when you're in shape.
Yeah, that's so in many ways we have many members that are there. I think of the Brosses. I mean, they've achieved their goals, you know. Now Dave's got little personal milestones he'd like to hit, but he tells me every time he hits a new max or he does something of significance in the gym from personally, he's like, he gets up, you know what, I'm not injured. I'm like, yes, you know, and that's because he's got good form and he practices that first, you know, and that's a switch from when I first started training him. So
so I guess what I'm going to say is, you know, you should always be growing. You should always be progressing, never staying stagnant. You know, stagnant water gets really stinky and moss grows on it and frogs start living in it and whatever, right?
Yes.
Flowing water continues to be refreshed. So, you know, I don't want to spread the message that if you're comfortable where you're at, you should just stagnate.
Right.
But I think, you know, you need to understand, what are you working towards? Because, you know, we all have different seasons of life. And, you know, there was a time in my life where I spent a lot of time in the gym, a lot of time focused on my own health and fitness and building myself to a certain point. And you're right. Once you kind of achieve that and you get to where you're comfortable, it doesn't take as much time to maintain. But we still have to be growing in some way. And that may be, we spend more time focusing on something else in our lives. But, always having a growth mindset. And it's hard to find that balance because I get what you're saying. There are plenty of people, myself included, who says, okay, we're heading into a new year. We need to reevaluate some goals. Well, what are my health and fitness goals? Well, I've kind of achieved them, so for me, my goal might just be to continue on that. But then how is me being a healthy and fit individual going to help me in the other things in my life I'm trying to grow, like my career, for example.
Right. Well, I think you connected a dot there. I think that, you mentioned recently that variety is the spice of life, right?
Yeah, last week.
Yeah. So that's true in many aspects. The human nature is that if we do the same thing over and over and over, we tend to get bored. And that's why I think those little personal goals inside the gym, like, after I hit my bench goal, then I'm like, oh, I'm going to do an overhead press goal, right? And now I'm going to get back down to 9% body fat because I just have a little bit more cardio. I can, so I just change those goals up as I'm going forward. And then it keeps that variety in the gym new and different. And so the goals I've achieved, which is being fit, doesn't get old.
So what I'm kind of hearing is, like last week we talked about eating the same thing over and over again for every meal versus changing it up. Mm-hmm. So you're kind of talking about that with your workouts, mm-hmm. right? Don't just keep doing the same exact workout every day because it gets bored. Change it up a little bit.
Right.
Still make it a good quality workout that goes towards your goals, right? Like if your goal is you continue to want to bulk up and get stronger, you don't want to change to a cardio-based workout program, right? Because it's not going to meet your goals. But maybe you change up a little bit of the exercises you do, add a little bit of spice in there, still keeping it to your goals.
Yeah,
I like that analogy.
Yeah.
I've always thought about that in terms of nutrition, but I've never really thought about it that way in terms of working out.
Yeah. Well, and I think with a lot of our members, a lot of them, I'll talk to them pretty regularly about, for example, if I haven't seen someone for a while, it's usually a Monday, Wednesday, Friday person that you're training. I'll ask them before, like if they show up on my day, I'll ask them, hey, has anything changed? Are your goals still the same? Or, and I also make sure there hasn't been any recent injuries that I need to know about. So I know what to set up for them, Yeah. So I know for a lot of the guys, it's not all the guys, but a lot of the guys, there's several that, hey, I just want to bench a little bit heavier, right? So a lot of the exercises I give them, if they don't have a lot of base on them, I might give them a little more reps. If they have a lot of base underneath them, they're pretty strong already. I might be doing less reps, heavier weight to get them stronger. It kind of depends on what where they're at and what their goals are. And so it's once you've kind of been down that road yourself, that gives you some insight and wisdom to share with your trainees.
Absolutely. I don't think you could be a good trainer if you haven't gone through it yourself.
Yes, that's 100% true. Even in my own past marketing experience, when someone was hired for a position that was outside of their field and in a managerial role, I always this is going to be a disaster, and it was. People that didn't go through the ranks, came from a different industry. I mean, that's when I was in marketing, I was a director, right? I've come into fitness, I started at the bottom, right? Because that's the only way for me to learn. Mm-hmm. And so I'm not going to pretend like, I was a director, I need to be a lead trainer right off the bat. Yeah. That makes no sense. So that'd be assuming something I don't have. So.
Well, and I think your humility in that is what allowed you to grow to where you are
Yes.
as a trainer.
Yeah.
You know, and same thing for me. You walk in the door, and I'm like, I don't know. Act like you know nothing, and learn from the people that are there, and who you see. You know, when I walked in to the gym for the first time, to Ryan's gym, back when it was Shred, I had worked out on my own for years. I had trained people on my own, not as a certified trainer. This was my first time as a certified trainer. And I kind of just approached it like I knew nothing.
Right.
And just said, what does this guy know? What can I soak up? What can I learn? Because I think if you have the prideful mindset that you already know everything, you're not going to learn anything more. And it's that swallowing that pride, having that humility, being willing to learn. Maybe the people in the room don't have anything to teach you, but see if they do, right? But if you have that prideful mind, like, oh, I know more than everybody else in this place, you're not going to learn anything.
Yeah.
You know, people have always have something to teach you.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not that, I learn a lot from you and Ryan, when he was, at the gym a lot. But you learn a lot from your trainees too.
Yeah.
That's the crazy thing. It's like they have fields they're in. You're learning stuff from them.
Oh, I've learned so much,
Crazy amount. We were talking today how much I'm learning about crypto, and how that's so new, and to start going down that road, not to diverge our New Year's topic, but, going into the new year, that's something that's very new for me.
Well, I think, and we both have a trainee to thank for that.
Yes.
That has got us both into it and educated us on it, you know? And that's like, this world is, it's all about goodwill. It's all about doing the right thing for people, and that all comes back around. And, if we as trainers help deliver the knowledge to people of, say, what we know, which is working out, a lot of times I find the trainees deliver the knowledge right back. And,
right.
And that's a really good way to do it, because, learn so much from talking to people, knowing people in the gym. Yeah, it's kind of a little off topic, but.
Yeah. So going back to,
go
ahead.
Yeah, back to the New Year's, I had a question for you that popped in my head that I wanted to ask, because we talked about, prioritizing your life for the new year, and that's kind of high level, like, okay, we need to think about where do our priorities need to be, and then kind of go down from there. But a really common thing that we hear this time of year is the term New Year's resolution.
Right.
All right, so I want to ask you what your opinion is on the traditional New Year's resolution thing that everyone does the first of the year.
I never give it any mind.
No New Year's resolutions.
I don't do New Year's resolutions because, I think it is nice to have a new year, but because sometimes you might have had a tough year, and so it's kind of like, I think God, I was going back to, each day you have the sun rise, right? Mm-hmm. I think that's a visual reminder from God that it's a new day, right?
Yeah.
Tomorrow's done, right? It might have been a really bad day, but God gives us that visual reminder. The sun comes up the next day.
Yeah.
It's a new day, right?
Yeah.
And it's a new day that we need to start anew, right? And I think, so from that standpoint, a new year is like, maybe it was a tough year, maybe it was a lot of turmoil, but it's a new year. Okay. So, from a positive attitude, it is like it's like, hey, I'm putting that as, we're going to keep all that garbage that happened in 2023 in that year. And 2024, we're going to, have some changes. We're going to improve ourselves. Yeah. But, or at the very least, have a positive attitude. I think that's more, it's like, it's like, okay, I can shake off 2023 and move on to 2024. But as far as resolutions, I think, really a lot of our goals, as far as either it being financial or, certain things with the kids or, certain family goals or business goals, a lot of those things are already determined, right? They're determined by what, how much money you have or where the kids are in their lives. Like, hey, in 2024, Mary's going to drive, right? That's our goal. She's going to drive in 2024. Or maybe you're going to plant a garden. Well, you can't do that in January, So a lot of things are already determined by the season or circumstances. So I'm not a New Year's resolution guy.
Yeah, I think we all have a path that we're on, and how I think it should be. The path is not always straight,
right?
But it also shouldn't have a ton of 90-degree or 180-degree turns, right? It's straight, and then when you need to change and reevaluate, you kind of shift slightly,
right?
And because of that, a New Year's resolution shouldn't be something that's just completely uploading your life and changing it, in a massive way. Make small changes over time, and that's how we improve, jumping from one thing to the next. Because that's what I think a lot of New Year's resolutions are. People think, oh, I kind of want to do this like crazy off the wall thing out here, something that I've never done before, or something that's not necessarily a part of my goals and my path and the journey that I'm on.
Right.
And it's almost a little bit pointless because I don't have the stat in front of me, but I know that very, very, very small percentage of New Year's resolutions actually end up happening.
Right. It's been a crazy week, and it's been great to pull up the stats on New Year's resolutions, but, been around the block a while, and I know that many times I've worked with a lot of people with here, and as far as New Year's resolutions, they last about a month or two. Yeah. And because, I was in marketing for 30 years. So I remember talking around the office, everyone in December, hey, what's your New Year's resolution? It came up every year. And then, hey, I'm going to be doing this, doing that. And then within, a month or two, that's kind of like feathered out. They might try to reestablish something in the middle of the summer because, it's warm and everyone gets more energy in the summer. And then by the time they get to September, it phases out again. So
yeah, that is an interesting point you bring up, especially in the health and fitness industry. We see cycles on an annual basis where like seasonally kind of every year. So what I found is 1st of January, typically people, they want to get on it. They want to hit it really hard. They want to be locked into their health, their diet, all the things. That lasts about a month, maybe, most of the time. You get into the dog days of February and everyone's just ready for spring, and they're just kind of, and people aren't on it usually February into March. Then about mid to late March, sun starts coming out, stuff starts warming up. People start realizing, oh, summer's coming. I want to be in good shape and healthy for summer.
Right.
They panic. They get back on it for April, May as summer comes. Then we get into the dog days of summer and vacations, trips, activities, 4th of July, you name it.
Yep.
And people, lots of barbecues, parties, whatever. And people aren't eating very good. They kind of get off the wagon. And school's out. Kids are home. And they get off of it for July, August. Well, then school starts back up in September. Kids go back to school. Normal routines come back into play. All the summer stuff goes away, and people think, okay, I'm going to get back on it now. And September, October, and into November is usually really good.
Right.
Then Thanksgiving comes, and a lot of times, that gets people off the rails. Holidays, get-togethers, that leads into the Christmas season, and it's starting to get cold out, and everyone's just in for the holidays, and that's when everybody falls off again. So it's really cyclical, and it's very predictable.
Yeah, it is very predictable.
What I found, the first year that I was a trainer, I kind of thought, oh, this is kind of interesting, how this all happened. And then the second year, it's like, it all happened the same again. Wow, maybe this is a trend. And then by the third year, it's just like, yeah, I know what's going to happen. Like,
yeah. And I think, I think our members, when they realize this is a lifestyle, the hardest part isn't always coming to the gym. It's about what they do outside the gym. You know, and because if that fails, then that coming to the gym will start failing later. But I found that talking to a lot of our members and people that I train in other gyms is that getting to the point of supporting their fitness journey from their daily lives is really difficult for them. And part of that is family. Like I know people that are in a family and they're going to eat healthy and the rest of the family's not. There's a lot of pressure there, right? Or if they go out with their friends and they want to eat healthy when they're out with their friends, there's some pressure there, either verbally or not verbally. So you got to get used to where you're comfortable saying no. You know?
That is very true. Peer pressure is a big problem.
Yeah.
You know, and not just peer pressure, but feeling the pressure for family events, friends events, like you said. That's hard. I mean, and I'm never going to tell people that it's not.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes I have a tendency to tell people like, you can do it. It's not that hard, even for some of that stuff. I'm like, that's a tough one.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of times it's getting over the hurdle of not caring what other people think. That was a hard one for me. I used to care a lot about what other people thought and act in a way that I thought other people would like.
Yeah.
And I find I've heard this a lot from not to call out your age here, Matt, but I've heard it a lot from people as they get older.
Right.
That they start to care a lot less about what people think and just doing whatever they want.
Right.
They realize how unimportant it is what other
Right.
people think. At the beginning of your life, you think the opposite. I mean, think about a kid. I mean, any of you guys who have children or all were children at one point in like middle school and high school. I mean, it's always, I got to have this because this is what all my friends have. And I got to, I want to wear this because, I care about what my friends think I look like, or I have to be at this place because of what my friends think, and peer pressure is really hard to avoid. And it's like it gets a little bit less as we go on throughout life. So kind of just accelerating that. And even though I'm not quite at that point yet, like I'm just old and don't care about it.
I mean, I think you're 26, but you have a mind of a 40-year-old.
Way to age me.
Well, I mean, I think, for the older people, maybe they've got it. There's several of our older people that they don't have a problem going out and saying, or being with friends or being amongst family or whoever they're with and saying, this is what I eat. Right.
Yeah.
So in my own personal life, it was an adjustment for the family that I have to have protein every single meal. I don't eat pastas. That was a hard one, right? And my wife loves pasta.
Yeah.
And now, let me segue to make sure that people understand that was by choice. Now I am going to be eating pasta. So, anyway, but
goals are changing.
Goals are changing, yeah. So to achieve some of my goals, I had to adjust my diet. So,
yeah.
But the point is like when I wasn't eating pastas or breads, that was an adjustment for my wife.
Yeah.
Right. And it was a kind of a struggle when it came to making dinner, because we had a certain way of eating. And at the time I was cutting, it was kind of a frustration, to be honest. It was kind of like, she'd be like, okay, which I understand. I get that. It's nothing on her. And so then as time went on, she saw the results. And then now she's starting to eat healthier, making those choices, not snacking at night, those type of things.
Lead by example.
I mean, and it took me a year to lose all the weight, right? I got down to under 180. I was like 178, something like that. And she's like, damn, I was like 9% body fat and really lean. And now she's like, then I had a new frustration, which is a lot of protein. Like I don't sit down for a snack or a meal without a lot of protein in it. It doesn't happen, right? I was sitting in the gym just the other day, and I was eating all I was eating is a big bowl of meat, right? And everyone came up to me, "You're only eating meat?" I'm like, "Yeah." It doesn't bother me that people are like, "No rice, no nothing, no beans." I'm like, "Well, it'd be good with that, but I'm just, I got to get protein intake. This is my snack." So you have to, those little things, like, you might think that's not a big deal, but it's like, they can sway someone not to eat the way they're supposed to.
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting point. Something I've heard a lot from a lot of couples is we have a lot of couples in the gym.
Yeah.
Where they both come, the husband and the wife both come.
Mm-hmm.
And they just do really well. I don't know. At first, I didn't really know what it was. And we noticed that trend. I think me and you kind of talked about that. It's probably been a year or two ago, and we were thinking there's so many couples, and a lot of our best, most dedicated members are the both of them come.
Right.
And I think the more that as time went on and talked to them and thought about it, that's a built-in accountability partner right there. We talk about how it's not just the hour in the gym, it's the other 23 hours of the day that really makes the difference to you achieving your health and fitness goals.
Right.
Well, we only see them an hour a day, the people that come in to train.
Right.
So not even every day, sometimes just 3 or 4 hours a week total. So we don't have a very big effect on them because of that. But their spouse, they're with almost all the time.
Right.
Very large portion of the time. And so having that accountability partner that's also on the same journey as you and has the same goals, cares about their health and fitness, is going to make it so much easier.
Right.
But you bring up a really good point. I mean, you can't just force your spouse into anything. So,
Right.
If you're in a position where you both are on that journey together and care about that, congratulations. That is super important and super helpful. If you're not, I think what you did is a great example where you just, you hold to your journey. Your journey is important. And then over time, maybe the other spouse sees that and sees the results and comes around.
Yeah, I think you kind of start to realize that how much value do you actually place on something, right? On your health, on your fitness, and how far are you willing to go to say no? But at the same time, you don't want to. I mean, anything can be abused. I mean, if you can be pumping yourself up with as many drugs as possible and lifting as much weight as you can, and it's all about that, or looking a certain way and flaunting that. But our focus is more on, the well-being, because, when you're going to the extremes, then it's no longer about the well-being.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, and that's true for everything. And, cause everything needs to be put against what is the ultimate purpose, right? And having more energy, being healthier allows you to do what, basically what is necessary for your faith, for your family, and for your own, and being healthy so you can function in those two areas efficiently. When you start putting in 2-3 hours in the gym and you're not around your family, your kids, your wife's having to do all the work because you're obsessing, then it's no longer healthy. Right?
No.
I used to play golf with guys years ago. I don't play golf anymore, but I used to play golf with guys. My gosh, they were out playing golf like 2 or 3 times a week. And I had little kids at the time. I'm like, how can you do that? I'm like, this is just way too much. And then not only that, they're practicing. They're going into the range practicing. So there's hours upon hours every week they're playing golf. And it was just a couple guys I used to work with. And I was just like, that seems, they had families, and I thought, that's not something I can do, right? Where you're just, and this golf game is not benefiting. They're not pros. They're everyday Joes. So I've always questioned the amount of time they were putting into something like that to take time away from their families. So, I mean, I guess that there's always a point, is what I'm trying to say, that you want to keep it within the well-being of its purpose.
Yeah, you don't want anything to suffer as a result of a good habit.
Yes.
Just like, we could compare, okay, you're at the gym too much, focusing on your health, then your family suffers. Maybe it's like, okay, if you're, spending too much time at the gym, then your job suffers. I mean, there's all these different things, but it also works in the opposite direction where too much time at work can make the gym suffer, so
That's right.
It's about a balance. And that's another good point about starting the year is, and priority shifting is finding the balance again. A lot of times we get out of balance over time.
Yeah.
Your job becomes more and more and more and more demanding, and you have to reevaluate and say, you know what, my family needs more time. My health needs more time. My faith needs more time. And you shift that balance. So, I mean, think about it in your lives, guys. What is the one thing or where are the areas you feel like you're out of balance? Where are the areas you feel like aren't getting enough time and effort? Where are the areas that you think, wow, I'm spending a ton of time on this? And, commit yourself to rebalancing that a little bit. I think that's really important. I believe that mind, body, and spirit are all three very interconnected, with spirit kind of being at the top. Imagine a triangle, and you have a triangle where spirit is at the top and it flows into mind and body. Spirit is connected to both mind and body. Both mind and body are connected to spirit, and then mind and body are connected to each other. And, I think those three things are extremely important to keep all three of them, because they all three feed off each other. If one suffers, the others suffer.
Right.
We discuss how somebody with a really poor mindset may not be able to achieve their goals in the gym because their mindset is not good enough. It suffers. Therefore, the gym suffers. The health and fitness suffers as well.
Right.
But I also think at the same time, spirit is connected to that. And I think when you talked about the unhealthy habit of the gym, a lot of times gym can get too high, spirit gets too low, right? When it becomes an unhealthy habit, it becomes an idol in your life. It becomes something you're kind of putting before God.
Right.
That's when it becomes that idol. That's when the spirit suffers. So I think in any case, they all have to be in a balance. And if it's not in a balance, we can point to a reason why. We can find a reason why. That was something, to get a little personal, that was something that I had to find myself. I was the guy spending 2 or 3 hours a day in the gym when I was, 19, 20, 21 years old, chasing after the numbers, wanting to lift the most, wanting to be the strongest.
Right.
Really cared about how I looked to people, and when people would see me, I wanted them to see me as a really big, strong, buff dude, and wanted to tell people the amazing numbers I lifted, and loved the people that got to see me in the gym lifting big numbers. And one day I was in church and the pastor was preaching on idolatry, and it was the sermon was about idols of the heart.
Yeah.
And he was talking about how, a lot of times our idols can, biblically speaking, idolatry was worshiping other gods and other figures and things.
Well, that could be money or, yeah.
But he was tying it to, it could be money, it could be your job, it could even be your family, right? And he's starting to think these things that people see as good can also be idols, and your life can get out of balance in that direction. And it hit me like a ton of bricks. I'll never forget it. And I was like, my health and fitness, my working out, that's an idol.
Yeah.
And that's put before God.
Yeah.
And I had to really rebalance that. So it can go both ways. I think the main point of that is just to say, keep it in balance.
Yeah. Well, I think usually things start to reveal if they're out of balance by the either good or bad fruit that was the result of them. So I know when I was working 80 hours a week in marketing, I did that for about 2 years. The fruit of that was very bad. and it was really hard on the family. And granted, we went through it. It was a whole nother story. But anyway, after 2 years, I said, I've lost 2 years of my kids' lives. I've been here all the time. And I was like, I'll never do that again, But I had to witness the destruction that it caused with Dad not being around. And, and that's usually how it happens. You went through a case where you probably knew what the bad fruits were. And usually it's us bumping in, we walk into a brick wall over and over, like, this is where I want to go, and it's causing pain. We can't figure out, like, why isn't this working, or why is this hurt? And then we realize it's like you start putting the dots together. It's because that's not what God's calling us to do. And so it's a beautiful story. Real good story.
Yeah. So the next kind of topic we wanted to dive into a little bit when it came to New Year's was, how can our guidance as trainers help the listeners put into practice these things? Because, it's easy to talk high level and say, well, I've decided, my health and fitness is not enough of a priority. Mm-hmm. And this is just the most common thing, right? That's not a very common case for somebody to be too into health and fitness that it's unhealthy. Mm-hmm. That's probably not our general listener out there. What typically happens is people find health and fitness is not enough of a priority. Usually it's because work is too much of a priority. And a lot of times what they need to do to make it more of a priority is more activity, more lean muscle mass, so lifting weights, a little bit more cardio to have the cardiovascular health, and then the nutrition has to be a lot better. Yeah. Right? So if you're the average person looking to make your health and fitness a better priority, what are our steps to take? What are our concrete recommendations that we would give those people for fixing that?
Well, I always, it's a pragmatic approach, and it's somewhat, it's custom and it's not custom. And what I mean by that is that someone has to look at their daily life and what are they willing to change? Because to eat right, sleep right, and work out, 9 times out of 10, that means a change to how you live, what you eat, how you sleep, all those things. And there might be bad influences in your life. Maybe you have a group of friends, which is not uncommon. Group of friends, they like to go out every weekend and get hammered, right? That's not really conducive to, a Friday, Saturday binge, right? So I think the first thing you have to stand back. Every single one of us has to stand back and say, am I willing to make some changes in how I live? Mm-hmm. Okay. And then after that, then it becomes more custom, right? Because not everyone has to change the same things.
Mindset first, right? Notice how you touched on that.
Right.
Mindset first. You have to decide and be willing to do it. Then where do we go next?
Well, I think a lot of people come into the gym and they don't realize what kind of sacrifice it's going to take, right? It's not just coming into the gym and moving some weight around. It's what you do outside the gym that makes coming in the gym effective. Mm-hmm. We say it all the time. If you have garbage before you come in the gym, then we're not going to get anywhere. Mm-hmm. You're not going to get the results you want. I mean, I think I shared with you just recently how I had a trainee, and he told me over and over and over, hey, I'm hitting the protein goals. I sent him his meal plan. I'm hitting that, And then we came to do his body scan. His body scan was not positive. And I said, which was, he was stronger. He had more endurance, which was a natural progression. But one of the things that we sat down and we went through his meal plan in detail, and he was eating not even half of the protein he needed to be eating. Now, he's eating the protein of a woman, right? Like not even that, actually, like 125 grams of protein per day. And this is a 260-pound man.
Wow.
So then you're like, my friend, you're not gonna. I told you this from day one that this would happen, and you've been telling me you're eating a protein, but he didn't really. He just thought he was. He wasn't measuring. He wasn't really counting. He just assumed that what he was eating was that. And when I got him to really break it down, and that was pretty much the average what he ate every day, 125 grams of protein. I said, well, this is why your scan is what it is. And, he was not, and he quit, because he wasn't willing to make the sacrifice that was necessary.
Yeah. I mean, that has to come first, because think about that guy taking all that time, putting in all that effort, spending all that money for nothing, not to reach his goal.
Right.
Because he wasn't willing to actually do what it took. And he didn't understand what it took. And that's why I know it's obviously a big passion for yours to hammer that home, how much protein that you need to be getting. And I completely agree with that. And the reason we do that is not to be redundant. It's not because we like hearing ourselves say it. It's because it is important. And think about how many times you told him that and he still didn't get it.
Yeah, it's like one in one ear and out the other.
Right?
Yeah.
People don't understand how much it takes and how necessary it is. And you're just spinning your wheels if you don't have that nutritional aspect. I mean, I would compare that to somebody who wants to lose weight but continues to eat in a significant calorie surplus. Yeah. It just doesn't make sense.
Right.
You're not going to lose the weight.
Yeah.
Right? And it's just beating your head against the wall. It's just wasting your time.
Well, and I think that is, so I always start with, when I'm, working with a new client, I start with the mindset, and try to get them to understand how important. And a lot of times they're coming in with a lot of energy, right? And they're more willing and accepting. They might not have thought what I was going to ask them to do was that. And I can think of a few members in the gym. The first time they came in the gym, I talked to them about their nutrition, and they're like, "Oh, wow, really?" They're like surprised, but they're going to have to do with their nutrition to achieve their goals. I think they truly thought, "Hey, I eat what I normally eat, and then I'm going to come in and my goals are going to be hit." That doesn't mean if you come in, you're not going to hit some goals. You might lose some weight, you might get a little bit stronger, but it's either going to happen. You're either not going to reach ultimately what you want, or it's going to take you a very, very long time, And the reason we talk about protein is because when you eat like, let's say a 40-20-40, fat, carbs, protein, that again, there's numbers that are custom for everybody. But the point is like fat will melt off and you'll achieve your goals or reach your goals faster than if you're doing like a 20, 50, 30, right?
And specify to our listeners kind of what that means if they don't understand.
So that micronutrients,
Macronutrients.
Right. So, or macronutrients, and, your fats, carbohydrates, and protein, right? So we depending on goals, we push those percentages around, right? And there's lots of different philosophies. I know a lot of people might have a different opinion. I've personally found that a 20% carb for someone who want to cut or less, the fat just melts off when they stick to it. And I've seen it, multiple times. So, the reason you do it that way is that you will keep more muscle mass that way when you're cutting. If you're not eating a protein, you're going to lose a ton of muscle mass.
Yeah, I think we all learned in school. Was it one of Newton's laws? Mass can neither be created nor destroyed. Right. So the basics of that is you eat less, you will weigh less. You eat more, you will weigh more. If you have more mass going in, you can have more mass on your body. If you have less mass going in, you will have less mass on your body. The real question is, what is the composition of that mass?
Correct.
And then you go down to, you are what you eat, right? Everyone's heard that. So if you're feeding a bunch of carbohydrates and you're eating really low calories, your body's not going to keep the muscle mass, because what is muscle mass made of? Lean body mass is made of protein. amino acids. So we have to eat the protein in order to build and keep the lean muscle mass, and we have to eat enough of it because our body just can't create it out thin air.
Right.
It has to get it. Mass can either be created or destroyed, right? And there are plenty of processes we could get into about how the body actually does that, but at a high level, that's what the body does. And so you have to have that in order to build that lean body mass. It's just there's no other way.
So back to your original question when you were asking me about how do we help clients achieve their goals, do you have any nuanced or maybe different approaches to that?
The main thing I recommend for people, so I like to see, thinking about weight loss from a body fat perspective, but also think about weight loss from just an overall health perspective. And what I like to do with people, if they haven't been on it at all, say they just haven't been on it lately, right, kind of a bit of a shock to the system. What I will do is a short period of time with no carbs, because if you haven't been eating the best, a lot of carbohydrates, a lot of junk food, your body's very inflamed.
Mm-hmm.
It's retaining a lot of water because of that. Because inflammation is literally like your body's saying, "Oh, we're sick. Like there's something wrong with us." So by cutting out all those carbs, what I found, and eating a clean, whole foods diet, meat, fruit, vegetables, that's basically it. People will drop the inflammation. Their bodies will heal very quickly. A couple weeks, and you might see people down 10 pounds.
That's a great point. I mean, if someone's coming in, into the gym, most likely they're eating processed foods, they're packaged foods, and they're all outside of the carbs. There's going to be lots of toxins in those.
Yeah.
And so you talked about eating clean. That's going to give some immediate results and relief with that inflammation going down.
And the immediate results are really good for mindset.
That's right.
Because if somebody comes in and does that and they say, okay, this is what I need to do, they do it for 2 weeks and they see results and they go, wow, this is doable. I can do this. And now they've got this mindset of, here we go, we're going to do it. But also, I think at the same time, by staying really low carb and staying really high protein. Sorry, I lost it there.
Yeah. You're talking about the macronutrients, the breakdown.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we were talking about carbs being at 20, protein being at 40, and then your fats at 40, give or take of those areas.
Oh, yeah. So going no carb, the thing about going no carb is it's hard.
Yeah.
It's very difficult for people to pull those carbs out. And so I think by forcing them to do that the first week or two, it's making them do something very difficult. And if they can get through something very difficult at the beginning, it also helps their mindset in knowing they can tackle hard things.
Right. Because
it's going to be hard. You go no carb and you're used to having carbs 2 or 3 days in, you're not feeling the best.
Yeah.
Right. And some people would give up at that point. Right. But the ones who can make it through that, it's like, all right, I know you've got the mindset that you're going to be able to make it through this. And then from there, it becomes easier. They're excited because they've got some results. They've done some hard things. And then you can start phasing carbs back in at a healthy level, up to like that 20%, because it's very helpful for energy, especially if you have somebody coming in who's already pretty lean. You don't want to go like a really, really long time with no carbs. Right. Because they will have very poor energy levels.
Right.
And you don't want people to be just like dragging, I got no energy, I can't do anything, So we give that back to them a little bit as time goes on. Sure. And that's dependent to the client. But that's kind of, if you're looking for a reset, a restart, kind of getting your body back into shape, I would either recommend a no carb for a period of time, maybe try it a couple weeks or a month in January. I also really like doing some fasting too, whether that's at an intermittent level or just a longer fast. The intermittent fasting is a lot easier for a lot of people. Cut it down only twice a day. Eat lunch and dinner.
Yeah.
Don't eat breakfast. Don't eat till noon every day, and then have your food done by 8 p.m. every evening. And that gives you a 16-hour intermittent fast your body's not used to. It has time to be cleared out and not be digesting food. I think that can be a great thing. And that's not an all-the-time thing, because that is going to help you typically lose a little bit of weight, reset your metabolism a little bit, but it's not something you have to do all the time to be healthy. And then there's also more of a long-term fast, and you could go as little as 24 hours or up to many days. And that's another, I think, be careful with it, but it's a good reset for the body.
I love intermittent fasting.
Yeah.
I think it's very effective, depending on your goals, but, I suffer from migraines, and intermittent fasting brings them on immediately. So, and the reason I know I still have that issue with fasting is that Sunday mornings, I don't eat before I go to church. And if I go to the 7:30 a.m. Mass, then I'm fine. I'm eating because usually by 7:30 a.m. I've got 60 grams in me. So, but I don't eat before I go to church. But if I go to 9:30 and I haven't eaten, about halfway through that Mass, that migraine's starting to come on. So, I know that it's hard for me I used to fast a lot in my 20s and 30s, and it's not something I can do anymore, but I highly recommend it.
Well, let's go back to something we talked about last week, about obstacles.
Yeah.
Right? That's kind of an obstacle for you. That's something that you can't do. And like we talked about, just because we recommend certain things doesn't mean it can't be done without it. So you're a very healthy individual, achieved health and fitness goals, all that stuff, without doing intermittent fasting.
Yeah.
Right? It can be done.
Yeah.
Do we think it's helpful? Do we recommend it? Do even you recommend it? Absolutely.
Yeah.
But it's not something that you can do, and it can still be done. So that's just a testament right there to say, hey, you had kind of a limiting factor, but you overcame it.
Yeah.
I would say another limiting factor for you was having 5 children, right?
Yes.
That's a lot. So I
Yeah.
mean, you had a lot of in your 50s,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
All of these limiting factors, yet look at the health and fitness level you've still achieved,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. And it's, it's probably fairly common that when someone, if they get really fit in their 50s, that might be the cycle that you see because of family and, stuff like that. But I think, as you also alluded to later, and I'm probably just as acceptable to this as anyone else, time, experiences, and failures gave me wisdom, right?
Yeah.
If I were to take the wisdom I have now and go back to my 20s, I would be fit through the whole thing, because I would understand priorities better. You know? That's why you're ahead of the game.
Well, a little bit. There are still things that there's only such a high level of wisdom you can have at a certain age. I'm still
Right.
learning a lot every day.
Right.
And, the level of wisdom I'm going to have when I'm your age is hopefully close to the level of wisdom that you
you'll be
bring.
fine.
So,
You'll be fine.
so one other thing that I wanted to touch on a little bit was talking about some of the challenges that we face kind of generally just in this world, but of challenges we saw a lot of clients, a lot of our trainees face in 2023 and this past year, and just how we were able to overcome them, and then what those challenges look like moving forward into 2024.
Yeah. Boy, the number of challenges that are brought to our attention are numerous. And, challenges kind of, in our clients kind of hits at their fortitude, right?
Yeah.
No one, hey, every one of us, if I have there's limits to what's going to, or I should say, there's barriers that will keep me out of the gym. Like if I have a child in the hospital, I'm not going to the gym, right?
Yeah.
I understand. Understanding those things are important. But if I am dealing with a difficult coworker at work, or or just a situation at work, because a lot of people's problems come from their work, right? Or they're so damn busy, or they got a very demanding situation. I think of one of our clients that we have now that I train, and she has an extraordinarily difficult situation going on at work, but she's showing up, okay? And that shows fortitude, right? And, so when they do show up, you need to be like, that's like a milestone moment for them. It should be. And you need to treat it as such.
Yeah.
Because we're all human beings, and that pat on the back is important, right?
Yeah.
And so when someone make it in, maybe they couldn't sleep all night. I know that's, or they didn't feel great, but they came in, or they're dealing with a breakup or something like that, but they come in. I always just go, you know what? It's like, congratulations to you for coming in. I know that wasn't easy, right? And so as a trainer, we need to be very supportive of those situations.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. One of the big things that kind of came to my mind that maybe hasn't been as prevalent the past few years is the economy. And, that affects different people in different ways, but I'm not going to lie, it's, it has a big impact on people's health and fitness, and it can. And I think we've seen that a lot throughout 2023, and who knows what's going to happen, but it sure seems
Election
like
year.
that may be a trend that continues. It's harder to, sometimes people have to work more hours in order to provide and feed their family, right? And so then
we've seen
that cuts in on time you have for the gym, or maybe, it's just can't fit in the budget anymore to pay for, one-on-one training or group training or something. You got to go to working out on your own or something like that. And a lot of times I think people, and it's stress too.
Yeah.
Right. And so the stress of that can affect people significantly as well. They're not as focused on the gym, on their own health and fitness. I think that's a big thing that we find. It's another stat that I don't have the figures in front of me, but I know it's astounding. The healthier people are during good economic times versus how unhealthy they get during bad economic times. Because bad economic times, you're working all the time, you're stressed out, you don't put your health first because you have other things that are more important. Good economic times, the money's flowing, everybody's doing pretty good, and you can spend money on it, you can spend time on it. And so, to people who maybe things are getting a little tight in that area, or a little stressed just due to some of the economic impacts, what would you recommend to those people to still stay on their health and fitness, and why is it important even in these times?
Well, you mentioned the word stress, and stress has a domino effect of issues, right? It makes you, stress is kind of one of those things that makes you make irrational decisions that are not healthy for you. I always tell people that if they're emotional, don't be making any big decisions, right? Because you're not going to see the forest through the woods. You have to, I always try to tell my kids, try to look through, don't make decisions emotionally, make decisions through reason and logic, okay? So, if you're stressed, I understand sometimes, money's money, and they don't have the money to come in the gym, then they make arrangements to get their fitness some other ways. And I know people that have had to do that, right? Because the money's so tight. But I always tell, so what I tell my kids, I would tell adults is try not to make emotional decisions.
Yeah.
Think about things from a reason logic standpoint, even if it's, true that, hey, money's tight, I need to make decisions. Make sure that if you can't afford to come to the gym, that you're making a viable option to maintain your fitness.
Mm-hmm.
And because the other thing that stress affects, eating.
Yeah.
So, you don't want to be paying for the gym if you're stress eating,
Yeah.
because then you're going to be very frustrated.
Yeah.
And that's another hurdle. So practicing stress relief techniques, and talking to them to, sometimes just talking to my kids about, look at it from a reason and logic standpoint.
Yeah.
And then make your decision. And I think that's an important approach to our trainees. And sometimes that gets into, talking to your clients a little bit, because you're trying to help them achieve their health goals. And sometimes that's, they come and they kind of I don't want to call it a confessional, but it's kind of like they kind of reveal some things going on in their lives.
Yeah.
So, yes, we don't want to take away from business time to talk to them for a whole an hour about this situation, because that's their hour to train. But a little bit of time can be taken to kind of address as quickly as possible and be very supportive of how do we separate the emotion of this and look at the reality of the situation and remove the emotion from it.
Yeah.
So that's very pragmatic, and that's what I would apply to anyone, actually.
Yeah, I was talking to a member. I've talked to him multiple times about this, actually, but he was just recently talking to me about it again. He has been in the lumber industry, lumber sales, and his name's Brian. I think you probably know who I'm talking about. And he was kind of talking to me about the tough times that he went through back in the recession, the housing market recession back in 08, 09, and nobody was building houses, nobody was buying lumber, and how much work he had to put in, getting an extra job, things like that. And he was telling me that before all that, he was in fantastic shape. He loves to work out. He's a guy that's in the gym every day. He's going to put in the work that's necessary, but the stress was so high and the amount of work he had to do was so high that he just couldn't focus on his health and fitness at all anymore. And he lost all that progress. And really these last, few years, once that kind of settled down, things got fine. He got back in the gym, but it took a while to build that back, and it took a while to get back where he was. And, people who are considering taking some time off, I just want to say, still commit yourself to getting in the gym. You can get a Planet Fitness for $10 a month. Is it the best? By no means.
Right.
But you can still be fit going to Planet Fitness if you put in the other work and dedication. So keep active, keep on it, try to maintain what you've got, try to continue eating healthy, right? Save the money, don't eat out, cook at home, buy healthy foods, they're cheaper anyway. And I think that goes a long way. And whenever you are in a position to be able to spend more time on your health and fitness, then you can, because family comes first. Feeding the family, things like that. I understand those stressors are there. Big expenses come up, whether it's a bad economy or not. Big expenses come up. People lose jobs. People, have pay differences and things that throw them off. But, no matter what, just understand that your health and fitness, kind of like your faith, is a journey that has to be there no matter what.
Yeah. You're going to have up and downs in your faith. You're going to have up and downs in your gym journey. And that's to be expected. We both have, right? So, but that's what gives us wisdom. Every single human on the planet gets wisdom from evaluating their stress or their failures correctly.
Absolutely.
So,
well, Matt, you got anything else you want to add today?
No, we've been going for a good hour. So
perfect timing.
Yeah, I think we had a good podcast. We'll try to be hitting new topics every week.
Yeah, absolutely. Like we said last week, if you listened to last week's podcast, we're very open to topics. We want to talk about what you guys want us to talk about and what you guys want to hear. So drop your email for us, Matt.
CPT, Kansas City @gmail.com.
Okay, so that's the email that you want to hit if you have any questions that you want to be brought up on the podcast. You know, I'd love to get a compilation of questions and do like a Q&A. If you have any topics you'd love us to discuss that are more high-level topics that we could do a whole podcast on, we'd love that too, because we're here for you guys. You know, we want to spread our wealth of knowledge in the fitness field, and we want to spread that to you guys. So I just want to thank everybody for listening. I thank you for joining me, Matt. I hope you enjoyed this episode 2 of Loading the Bar podcast, and we'll see you guys again next week.
All right. Take care, guys.
Hey, look at you. You've completed another milestone by finishing this episode of Loading the Bar. Your future self thanks you profusely. Loading the Bar is podcasted from Kansas City, Missouri. Email us at cpt.kansascity@gmail.com. Forge ahead and share your progress. And we'll see you back here for another episode of Loading the Bar.